How do you get America's economy working again? That is perhaps the fundamental question facing Barack Obama as he moves into his 2012 re-election campaign. It's also an issue that the FT is addressing in depth this week. How do you revive the world's largest economy when its key driver, the middle-class consumer, continues to struggle?
This is a make-or-break moment for the middle class and for all those who are fighting to get into the middle class.
The American middle class has certainly faced much worse in the past. This Washington monument behind me is dedicated to the Depression-era President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. These sculptures pay tribute to the men and women who lined up in bread lines to feed their families and toiled digging ditches and building schools as part of Roosevelt's Works Progress administration. This time there aren't bread lines, but there are rows of foreclosed houses all across America and record levels of personal consumer debt. Middle-skilled jobs are disappearing and have been for a long time. Income inequality in America has become consistently worse for decades, and nothing President Obama has done has been able to reverse this trend. The American dream has become ever more elusive for an increasingly large chunk of America's middle class. Such frustrations have helped spur the Occupy Wall Street movement across America, including here in DC. Even for those who have four-year college degrees, it is both harder to find a job and tougher to find one that pays them in line with inflation. Disappearing manufacturing jobs are being replaced by relatively low-skilled and low-paying jobs that cannot be substituted either by new technology or by offshoring. Often these jobs can't support a comfortable middle-class lifestyle anymore. And many Americans who are fortunate enough to have jobs are working longer hours for less pay, as their employers, struggling to compete in an increasingly hyper-connected global economy, are continually under pressure to shrink costs and headcount. As you can see in this chart, the American workforce is having an increasingly hard time getting back to pre-recession levels. Following the Great Recession of 2008, McKinsey forecast the American economy would take 60 months to regain the number of pre-recession jobs it had. But that forecast now looks optimistic. If there is an explanation as to why American middle-class incomes have stagnated in the last generation, this is it. Whatever jobs the US is able to create are in the least efficient parts of the economy, the types that neither computers nor China have yet found a way of eliminating. That trend is starting to lap at the feet of more highly educated American workers. What then can be done to revitalize America's increasingly sclerotic jobs market? Well, if the answer were simple, it would have been on everyone's lips a long time ago. In spite of the rhetoric from Washington politicians, there's little consensus amongst either policymakers or economists about what to do to address the fundamental problem in the American jobs market. There is, however, agreement on the kinds of things that should be done to prevent it from continuing to deteriorate. Top of the list is a better education system for all stages of life, from early childhood through to worker retraining. Economists also agree on some other broad measures, such as increased investment in infrastructure and reforming America's hidebound immigration system so that the most talented foreign students can once again remain in America, as they used to before 9/11. But even with these kinds of measures, there are still strong doubts they would be enough to fundamentally fix America's labor market and the deteriorating quality of life for America's middle class. The American middle class is no longer necessarily the most important driver of global demand, as it has been for most of the last few decades. Nevertheless, fixing the deep hole in which the American middle class is now languishing is an issue of deep concern way beyond America's shores.